You don't quit because you can't do it. You quit because the moment it gets hard, your body sends one message: escape. And it always feels reasonable. It feels like self-awareness, like you are finally listening to yourself. You were in the middle of something that had been building for weeks, maybe months. And then, almost without noticing, you stepped away. There was no clear failure, no collapse, no dramatic end, just a quiet withdrawal that felt justified. You sat down with the work, it got difficult, and something in you said, "Not today. Not like this. Maybe tomorrow when you're sharper, when the conditions are better, when you're ready." But the moment you left was not random. It was not proof that you lacked discipline. It was not proof that you were weak. It was not proof that the work was wrong. It was a signal, and you obeyed it before you understood what it actually meant. The nervous system has one job: keep you alive, not help you finish, not help you build the thing, not help you become who you said you wanted to become. Keep you alive. And it does that by reading load, physical stress, mental pressure, emotional intensity. Every signal moving through the body gets assessed. And when the load rises high enough, the system fires. The part of you watching for danger was not built to understand your goals. It does not know the difference between peak effort and mortal threat. So when the pressure becomes intense, it chooses the safest option: stop. The abort call arrives as urgency, as a sudden drop in energy, as a convincing feeling that something is wrong, that this is not working, that you should pull back, that leaving would be the intelligent choice. And it feels powerful because it comes from the same system that protects you from real danger. Same mechanism, same urgency, same authority. In the early days of jet flight, pilots approaching the speed of sound encountered something they had no framework for: maximum turbulence, right before breakthrough. The airframe shook, the instruments went wild. Everything in the system said, "This is wrong, turn back." And the pilots who turned back never broke through. They experienced all of the danger and none of the other side. What they could not have known, without going through it, was that the turbulence was not proof they should stop. It was evidence that they were almost there. This is not a flaw in your design. It is the design. A design built for a world where difficulty often did mean danger, where physical load meant survival might be at risk, where the correct response to intensity was to stop, recover, and stay alive. But that world no longer exists in the same way, and the system inside you was never updated. The body at maximum effort and the body under genuine threat can read like the same event. The system does not ask, "Why is this hard?" It only asks, "How much load is this body carrying?" And when the number gets high enough, it fires. That is why your best efforts often generate the strongest desire to quit. Not because the work is meaningless, but because the work is finally real. The more important it is, the more pressure it creates. The more pressure it creates, the louder the signal becomes, which means the most important work you will ever do may feel exactly like the thing you should stop. This is why the hardest thing you ever attempted is often the thing you never finished. Not because you lacked discipline, not because the work was impossible, but because the abort call at peak difficulty is one of the most convincing feelings you will ever experience. And you had no framework to question it. Every significant thing you have ever built had a moment like this, a point where everything in you said, "Stop," and the reasons felt real. The logic felt sound. The withdrawal felt mature. You either got through it without fully understanding why, or you didn't. And later, you called it something else. Wrong timing, bad conditions, not the right project, not the right season, but the signal was not new. You have felt it your entire life. What you may not have had, until now, is a name for it. a false alarm issued at the exact moment it feels most real. You cannot turn this signal off. It is not a setting. It is a survival function, designed to be fast, loud, convincing, and it is all three. But you can learn to read it differently, because there are two things that can feel almost identical at peak difficulty: genuine danger and the breakthrough point. One means stop. The other means you are exactly where you need to be. Real danger has specific signs, something structural failing in the body, in the work, or in the situation. Those signals matter. They deserve a real response. But the false alarm feels different. It arrives as urgency without a clear cause, as the feeling that this is too much before anything is actually broken, as the voice that says, "Not now, not like this," but cannot tell you what would truly be different tomorrow. So the question at peak difficulty is not, "Should I stop?" The question is, which signal is this? And you cannot answer that question with emotion alone. Because in the moment, emotion will feel like truth. You answer it with evidence, by having stayed before, by learning through experience that the loudest signal in your body can still be wrong. The first time you stay through a false alarm, you do not know it was false. You find out after. The second time, you recognize the feeling sooner. The third time, you feel it rising, and you already know what it is. That is how the system recalibrates. Not through what you read, not through what you plan, not through what you say you believe, through what you actually go through. The wall is not always the end. Sometimes it is the final test, and it arrives with no sign that says, "This is a test." What you find on the other side is not comfort. It is evidence. Evidence that the call was wrong. Evidence that you stayed while it was firing. Evidence that you can do this again. So the next time everything in you says stop, do not obey it blindly. Read it, question it. Look for what is actually breaking. And if nothing is breaking, stay. Because the abort signal does not always mean you are failing. Sometimes it means you are closer than you have ever been. If this inspired you, give it a like, subscribe for weekly wisdom, and share your thoughts below to grow the Inner Strength community.